in this clip what we're going to do is we're going to reflect the shapes through either the x-axis or the y-axis. Now, when we reflect a shape, what we do is we reflect it through a mirror line, and when we have to reflect through an x or a y-axis, we're actually given what the mirror line is. So as you can see, this is the y-axis, which would be a mirror line, and this along here is the x-axis, which is another mirror line. Now, the question asks us to reflect through the x-axis. So what we've got to do is, we know what the x-axis is, we know that it's there, so we've got to reflect through that axis. So our shape will end up in this bottom left-hand quadrant. So it's a very, very simple case of just counting squares. So what I essentially do is I look for the bottom right-hand corner of the shape, and I see that it's 2 boxes away from the x-axis. So all I simply do is I count 2 boxes to the x-axis. This is my reflection line, so I got 2 boxes past that reflection line, and I mark that point there. I again can take this next point. Again, I see that it's 2 boxes away from the x-axis because that's what I'm reflecting through, so I go 2 boxes on the other side and mark that point. Now the top point there, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes away from the reflection line, which is the x-axis, so I count again, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I now have my 3 points, so I can just simply join them together to form my reflected shape. Now, the second type of question is the reflecting through a y-axis. Now, as you can see, it's the y-axis I'm reflecting through this time. Now the y-axis is the vertical line, so what we can see is this is my original shape. When I reflect through the y-axis, I've got to go through that mirror line this way. So my shape will end up in the bottom right hand corner this time. Again, I know where the axis is, so I know how far away each point is away from the axis by counting the lines. So the first point here is 1, 2, 3 boxes, so I count 1, 2, 3 on the opposite side. I will now choose this point here. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. So I count another 6 boxes out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And mark that point. My third point in the diagram is again 6 boxes out. And again I know that it's directly above that previous point. So all I simply do now in this case is I just join those 3 together. Like so. And it has been reflected properly through the y-axis. In this question here, these are the C grade reflection questions, and in these questions what you've got to do is you've got to create a reflection line. So you can't use the x and y axes because what it's asking you to do is reflect the following through the line y equals minus 1. So what we've got to do is we've got to create a reflection line called y equals minus 1. So what we do is we look for 2 points on the line x equals minus 1. So what I can do is I can create 2 coordinates, and I can put in one of the values for each coordinate because the line says x equals minus 1, so automatically every coordinate on that line has to start with an x value of minus 1. So I can put minus 1 in and minus 1 in there. Now I can choose whatever points I want to in the other ones, it doesn't matter, but I generally choose 0 and 1 for those 2. So what I've done now is I've created my 2 points. So what I've got to do now is I've got to create my reflection line. So the first one, I'm going to plot the 2 points that I've created here. So I'm going to go minus 1, 0. Now I followed the same rule as I do when I'm plotting any points. I go along the corridor and up and down the stairs. So what I do is I go along to minus 1 and I stay on 0. And then I go along to minus 1 again and I go up to 1. Now what I've done here now is I've created a new reflection line. So my reflection line is this dotted line like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect the shape not through the y-axis but through this dotted line. So I've got to count to the dotted line, which is my new reflection line. So I'm going to go for this point. So it's 1, 2, 3 points to the dotted line. So I'm going to go out 3 points. I'm just going to choose this point down here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. So I got 5 boxes on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that this third point is in line with the last point that I've just reflected. So that is just there. So all I simply do now is I join those 3 points together. Now, you could get a second example where you're asked to create a different reflection line. So in this question it says, reflect the following through the line y equals 2. So, again, I've got to create 2 coordinates for the line y equals 2. So again, I simply open up my sets of brackets. Now, because it's the line y equals 2, the y part of each coordinate must be 2. So it's the second number in each coordinate, which is 2. So they both have to be 2. I can put whatever number I want to in here, but I just keep it nice and simple, so I just put in 0 and 1. So it's very important just to know when you're creating these reflection lines, whether it's the y value, as it is in this case, or the x value is equal to whatever number they're saying. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create that line by plotting these 2 points. So remember, I go along the corridor and up the stairs. So the first point is 0, 2. So for 0, 2 I stay on 0 and I simply go up to 2 and I mark there. And then I go out to 1 and up to 2 to create the second one. Now you'll notice that my reflection line is now going horizontally. So again, all I simply do is I just draw that dotted line, which is now my mirror line or my reflection line that I'm going to reflect the shape through. Now it's a very, very simple case of just counting boxes again. So as I can see, so it's from this point of the shape to the dotted line, it's only 1 box. So I go 1 box on the other side. Again, 1 box from here to the dotted line, so I go 1 box on the other side. And from this point here to the dotted line, it's 3. So it's 1, 2, 3 boxes. So I go 1, 2, 3 boxes on the other side. All I simply do now is I connect my 3 points together. And what I've done there is I've drawn another accurate reflection through the line y equals 2. So the main points to remember are in these questions: create your 2 coordinates. You will either make the x's the same or the y's the same depending on what the line tells you. Create the coordinates, plot it, draw your new dotted reflection line, and you reflect through that dotted line rather than the x or the y axes. The last questions that you could be asked in regards to reflections is to be able to describe them fully. So what you will get is you will get a diagram, and obviously you've got to look at what type of transformation it is. So the question will say describe the following transformation. So we know that there are 4 types of transformations. There's translations, there's enlargements, there's rotations and reflections. Now looking at this diagram, it's pretty obvious that this is a reflection where you've got shape A being reflected to shape B. Now, we will start off by saying that it is a reflection. Now, we also know that every reflection has to go through some sort of mirror line. So what we've got to do is we've got to figure out what the mirror line is. My suggestion for you to do is, again, count the boxes between the 2 shapes. So you can see that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the mirror line has to come along halfway between those 2 shapes. So as you can see, the mirror line is on the 3rd box, 1, 2, 3, and it is already drawn for you. So the mirror line here is the y-axis. So that's all you've got to do there, is that to describe the transformation between A and B, it's a reflection and it's through the y-axis. Now, you could get a question where you need to look for the mirror line. Now, if you look at these 2 shapes, you've got A and B. Now again, we know that that is a reflection. Now, we also know that the y-axis is not the mirror line, because the y-axis is more to one shape than to the other shape. So what we've got to do is we've got to figure out where that mirror line is. So, in order to do that, again, we'll just count the boxes between the shapes. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, essentially, our mirror line has to be halfway between the two shapes. So what I'm going to go to is I'm going to go through to the third box, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a dotted line between the two shapes. Now, I know that this is my mirror line, so what I've got to do is I've got to figure out what this mirror line is called. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick two coordinates. Now, it could be any two coordinates, but it has to be on the mirror line. So I'm going to choose this one here, and I'm going to choose this one here. Now, remember, when we're naming coordinates on any coordinate grid, we go along the corridor and up the stairs. So again, I'm just going to open up my sets of brackets, and we've done this previously. Now this coordinate here, it is along -2 and 0. So it's -2 and 0. The next one, it's along -2 and up 3. So it's -2, 3. Now, looking at those two coordinates, I know that -2 is constant. So that indicates to me what that line needs to be called. Now, the -2 is also in the x position. So the line that we are reflecting through is the line x equals -2. So to describe this fully, it's a reflection through the line x equals -2. Now there is one last case that we could have a look at, and that one is this one here. Now again, we have our two axes drawn, and we know that the x-axis is definitely not the mirror line because it's closer to this shape A than it is to shape B. So again, what I've got to do is I've got to figure out where the reflection line is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 6 boxes between. Now I know that the mirror line is going to be going horizontally. So I'm going to figure out, I'm just going to draw a dotted line halfway between the two shapes. So I'm just going to draw quickly, going across there. Now again, I've got to identify two coordinates on this line. So again, my transformation is a reflection. Right, my two coordinates, I'm going to pick, say, this one here and this one there. So I'm going to open up my two sets of brackets. Now, this one goes out to -2 and up 1. So that's -2 and 1. This other coordinate is out -5 up 1. It's -5, 1. Now all I need to do is I need to look at the common element between my coordinates. And I can see that 1 appears both times here, so that's the common element. So the 1 here is in the y position. So to describe this transformation fully, I know that it's a reflection and it's through the line y equals 1.